Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Say It Out Loud. This week, Kaytlin Bailey and I talk about the oldest profession in the world. Do you know what that oldest profession is? Sex work. We dig into when you need to choose it, when you want to choose it, and advocating for better conditions for those who are in this work. Get cozy. This is going to be a lot of fun. Hey.
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
It's so cool to be on your couch.
Yeah, I appreciate it a lot. Yeah. Okay, sun's going down. Not really, but it feels like it in this room. And it's only 2 o'clock or something.
I know.
So here we go.
The early to dark times.
Do you get darkness depression, seasonal?
Sure.
Yeah.
I get darkness depression.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a more accurate description of it than like seasonal depression.
Yeah,
Sounds so,
exactly.
Like, trendy, and it's
no,
like,
it's the darkness, bro.
The darkness comes for all of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's weird. It's a strange time of year because there's so much like celebration energy.
Yeah.
And so I feel like my social battery is like never has a chance to recuperate. Plus you have to do like 2x the amount of work in half the time, right? Because like everyone's like on vacay. And then it's like extra, anyway, it's a
lot. Yeah,
100%.
I know. I feel the exact same way. And I have children and like their schools are like, do this shit, do this shit, do this shit.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no.
Right, yeah, it's like it's turkey time, and then it's like Santa time, and then it's like New Year's time.
About this.
Right, and they're trying to like you live in a society, and there's a calendar.
Exactly.
It's a lot of invisible labor.
And I'm just like, I'm opting out of this. Okay.
Bless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Thank you, but this is a no.
Yeah.
Great.
Not everyone gets a gift.
Exactly.
Right. How old is your little?
I have a 8-year-old next week, and a 3-year-old.
Cool.
Yeah. It's lovely. It's lovely. People are like not having kids, and I really love that.
Yeah.
Because I wish I thought about not having kids.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I did not.
It hadn't occurred to you?
It didn't occur to me, unfortunately. Yeah. But I will say, there's a lot of love. There's a lot of goodness that's not talked about.
Yes.
Right now, again, I love the kids are a drag narrative because it's facts.
Sure. Yeah. It's time, and it feels like an overcorrection.
You're right.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as someone who is like currently straddling the like to baby or not to baby thing, it is both a necessary overcorrection, and it feels good to have the information, and also you feel like a crazy person wanting to do it like at all, like justify. Like current me trying to talk to future me of like, you might grow to love butt stuff, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know how much you like have poop about now, like just like 50x that.
Yeah, it's
for
gonna
like
be awesome.
7 years. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine being conscious enough to make that choice in today's narrative. I didn't think about that. No, you'd be like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, let's bring a baby into fascism.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. You've struggled with body dysmorphia your whole life.
Exactly.
Let's
run that back
stuff.
Yeah.
Right, for
cool.
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, you like leaking.
That's not a fun. That's a very bad. That shit was the worst. How could you say that?
Ali Wong talked about how breastfeeding was like her Vietnam compared to like if birth was basic. Right, then
I got cut open, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome,
cool,
great.
Yeah.
I want to give a disclaimer to us as human beings on the couch, and to anybody who's listening. This is my first time engaging with the topic of sex work.
Sure,
a sex worker previously. Any of that world.
Yeah.
And so I just am like, I was listening to some of the work that you do and how some of your debates and stuff. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is more complicated.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on.
And I don't even know how I feel or if I have thoughts. So I just like, I'm going to be just normal human being vibes. Sure. And so anybody who's, so I guess that's my ramble of saying I'm exploring this for the first time.
Yeah, and thank you so much for like having the bravery to explore this like complicated topic that has been like so weighed down with like other stuff, right? And it is such a sticky topic, it's such a deep topic, right? I've been obsessed with this stuff for decades now, and like I feel like I'm still uncovering.
Oh, really? Okay.
So like, anyone who tries to sell this as like a simple story is like doing propaganda.
Okay, cool.
Like, for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that.
As soon as you said bravery, I thought about that incredible Maya Angelou quote of like, courage is the most important virtue, because without it, you can't have any of the others.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah.
But courage is the most important.
It's the most important virtue.
Because without that, for
you
sure.
can't, everything else crumbles.
Oof.
And so like to have the courage of your convictions, to like bravely stand in your own truth is foundational to and like that little nugget of like, you know, just allowing yourself to know what you know. And that that was the beginning of my journey. Like, so, you know, we're similar ages.
I'm 40.
39.
Okay,
so
great.
Yeah. So I came of age during George W. Bush's abstinence-only education program. And I was in North Carolina going to public school.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Okay.
And I remember, like, my public school sent a parade of religious educators into my school to give us misinformation about our bodies on purpose. And part of that narrative is that, like, sex is the worst thing that can happen to you as a girl, because you've lost the thing that makes you valuable, right? That purity culture, this idea of like chastity and integrity and value all being so intertwined and deeply connected. And my rejection of that narrative was the beginning of this path that has eventually led me to sex worker advocacy. Yeah. Sure.
I was also growing up in North Carolina, and I don't remember any of this.
Part?
I was in Durham.
Okay.
Where were you?
Raleigh.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Triangle.
So when we were growing up, there was hate your body, don't have sex narrative. See, I blocked so much shit out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had a Southern Baptist minister's wife that like was her job description, who came to our school in a nurse's costume.
Damn.
Right? And like the reason I call it a costume is because like she had like no medical credentials, and like her big like. Her like big finale moment was she put glue on a piece of paper that was like one color, and then she stuck another piece of paper that was a different color to it, and then she like tore it apart, and she was like, this is what happens to your body when you have sex with you leave pieces of yourself. It is impossible to like have a sexual encounter and not be like unscathed, devalued. Same instructor the next year in front of the whole school auditorium, she called a girl up, right? We're in middle school, right? So it's like the height of like social anxiety. So like to call a child up in front of the auditorium, but she set them up to fail. She told them to squeeze toothpaste out of the tube. And then she said, put it back. And she was like, and that's your virtue. That's how, like, that's.
Did you go to a religious school?
No, public school. I know, it felt illegal at the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Right, but this was...
Okay, so you were a conscious 13, 14, 15-year-old,
Yes.
like, watching this like, oh, no.
For sure. I'm being lied to on so many levels and
Wow,
so many ways. Yeah.
cool.
Incorrect.
Damn, good on you.
Thank you.
And so...
Some only child shit.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, yeah, all credit to my mom. I've been a contrarian most of my life, but I've also just been, you know, my father was a soldier and my mother was a gay rights advocate, like, and became a Planned Parenthood advocate like before it was cool. And so I come from like this like lineage, I guess, of like fighters. And people who would rather be right than happy. And so that's been...
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, so were you feeling sexual as someone was telling you that, you know, your purity is your sexuality? Or like, you know what I mean? Were you like, ooh, I'm kind of horny and I had a boyfriend? Or was that not really... Yeah, was that wrapped up into what was going on?
I definitely had a lot of like early sexual energy. Like
cool.
I was raised on raised. It's the wrong way.
I
discovered my parents like Anise Nin erotica.
Yes,
like, early, right? So like, you know, 5th grade, being like, I know too much.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I like developed early, which changed the way that you move in the world. Right. Like I feel like society sometimes pretends that like tits are something that like girls like save up for and pick out at the mall instead of something that happens to us.
Oh my God.
And so going through that transition, I saw how uncomfortable it made my dad. It drug up all of my mom's body issues, right? And then I was like in this society that was like primed for slut shaming, and it felt like no matter what I wore, there my body was. And so there was definitely that, plus like the hormonal nightmares. Like, I feel like I'm going through like cougar puberty now, and like all of those feelings are returning. Yeah, that's real. That is a real thing. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I remember the last time I felt like this was I was in middle school at the library reading filth in the corner, right? Like, you know, beet red, wanting to be caught. So yeah, I definitely moved through the world with this, like, what felt like this ungovernable and disruptive and deeply, deeply unwanted sexual energy. And my horror character, right, having gone on to do formal sex work, like, as a pretty young person, and then again as like a more solidified adult for different reasons and under different circumstances, gave me a safer space for that sexual expression than what was available to me in my community. Right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, why do you call it your horror person?
So I came to prostitution as a theater kid. And so I created my escort character with the tools that I had as an actress.
Yeah.
And so, and felt about sessions the way that I think performers think about scenes, in that, like, it is both real and not real.
Absolutely.
Right? It's both of those things. It's your body. It's your emotional state. It's your, and also you are playing a character, and both of those things are true at the same time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So you launched into, you took all of this attempt to repress and to purify and said, fuck you, I'm going to be a sex worker.
I'm going to go
I'm actually going to, I'm going to go right there.
Directly to that. Yeah.
And
I'm not going to fuck around with, like,
yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
And did you have fun?
I had so much fun. Yeah. It's cool. I mean, like, first of all, the taboo, right?
Right.
Second of all, and I want to acknowledge this, the, like, very deep privilege that I had allowed me to have a very positive experience, right? I didn't need the money in order to get any of my material human survival needs met, right? Like, all of that was handled. I got to, like, that allowed me to, like, say yes and no to clients, or yes and no to, like, circumstances. It allowed me to take my time, which is so important.
What do you mean? During the sessions, or just, like, evolving?
Yeah. Like, there was no rush, because there was no urgency.
I see.
Like, I think that, you know, vulnerable people are very exploitable across labor sectors. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And people doing gross stuff for money is a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
But you see that in agriculture, you see that in domestic labor, you see that in textiles, you see that in, like, the fishing industry. And I saw, like, what being a soldier, like, did to my dad. Like, we can have a real conversation around exploitation or gendered-based violence or selling your body, but, like, I brought all of my privilege into sex work and also waiting tables, and that allowed me to have a really different experience than, you know, what many of my colleagues and peers were able to do. But the problem is not prostitution in and of itself. It is not sex work in and of itself. It is all of these other things that we've come to attach to it. Yeah. And because prostitution has become a symbol of exploitation and violence against women, we say that we're trying to solve those problems when what we're trying to do is eradicate the oldest profession. And when you do that, you end up hurting the people you're trying to help. There are absolutely people who are selling sexual services that want to be doing other things. And we can and should get those folks access to resources, services, and support. But you're not going to get there by trying to take their livelihood or survival, like the survival skills that they have available to them at the moment, away.
There's something really hot and sexy about it. You know what I mean?
There is, like,
which is like,
that's a real, like,
yeah, I know. It's a real kind of kink. Yeah, I know. 100%. Like, I definitely probably thought about, like, I could have been a stripper. Like, that would have been fun. And I don't have breasts, and I never had any. Like, I would stuff my shirt, but I have a big, juicy, fat ass. Yeah. And so I would, like, see how people would respond to that too. Yeah. And I'd be like, and I would remember being in college, I'd be like, $500 to, like, for the best ass. I'd be like, I would win that in a second.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
sure.
I just wanted to say that because it's interesting how I am just now reclaiming my sexuality, from I was definitely a horny young girl for sure.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, where did this go? Why do I feel like this? So there's like the sexual power of a woman or a human, I don't know, but I'm only a woman that is sometimes you just want it, and sometimes it's nice to have people engage with it, period. And we have to let that be its own thing. And then when I was listening to you and understanding what you do, I was like, oh shit, but there's all this darkness around it. And thank you for saying your privilege, because I was like, did she do this by choice? Did she not? A lot of people don't. Shit, what are they going to think? Like, what if someone's watching this? They're like, I don't do this. So it's just like, it's wrapped up in so many things. Okay, so we have this sexual power, which is quite awesome.
The archetypal whore is so important, I think, to the human experience, right? And you see this figure, right, across continents, across time, right? Like, I think Margaret Atwood called them the like sex and death goddesses, right? Okay. So you have like, you have Ishtar in ancient Babylon, you have Tlazolteotl in like, Aztec, you have like different iterations of this like badass, sexually, voracious, like insatiable characters that are associated with the like life cycle. And I think that we have so denigrated that, and it's part of the patriarchal trap, right? You have to denigrate the sacred whore, and as a part of that, you have to contain, control, denigrate, demonize, and ultimately criminalize the oldest professions. They are connected, right? So you have like you have the mythical space, and then you have the like lived reality. And there is a connection between those two things. I don't know how much time you've spent in strip clubs. I don't know, like
a decent amount.
Decent amount.
Yeah.
Right. Tell me if I'm crazy.
Please.
Right? You walk in. There's a little bit of worship that's happening between the client and provider.
Absolutely.
There's something about the way that erotic performers command that space and what they bring out of people. There is a relationship between the sacred and the profane. And I believe that brothels, churches, and theaters all share a common ancestor, which are these like ancient fertility temples where there was a lot of space for the sacred whore.
Oh, I stand firmly on the side of women's sexuality and this sacred whore woman.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we love her.
Yes.
And so what are you advocating for?
So we have a policy position, right? Sex workers all over the world have been asking for the same thing for decades, which is the decriminalization of adult consensual sex work.
Decriminalization of adult
consensual sex work. So what the decriminalization of sex work means is that consensual sex between adults, right? Erotic services that would not otherwise be a crime, do not become a crime just because money is exchanged.
Gotcha.
Right. So rape, incest, statutory rape, anything with kids, violence, kidnapping, trafficking of any variety or sort, none of that is like becomes not a crime, right? All of that.
Yeah.
But adult consensual sex workers advertising their services, right, to clients, that is not automatically classified as trafficking or exploitation or criminal activity.
Got it.
Because we know what prohibition does to markets, right? It doesn't make them safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's happened? Can you give us a quick 101 on what's happening around the world? I saw something about the Nordic and what does this and this and this, and I'm like, I can't keep up. But like, where do we stand?
So there are 4 basic buckets for policing prostitution around the world, right? So there's full criminalization, which is what you see in most places from the 19th century on, right? Which is that like selling, but also like technically buying and facilitating prostitution is a crime. So everyone involved is like is a member of a criminalized class, right? But mostly the seller or like the professional person is the easiest to find and the most likely to be criminalized. Then you have legalization or regulation. And so these are like basically like forced brothels. Like the only way to work legally is to do so in a tightly restricted red light district, or to like register with the state and to work in one of a few legally licensed brothels. This is what you see in Nevada and also famously in Amsterdam and Germany. And like there are many examples of this around the world, and they're all centered around like containing and controlling sex workers.
What do you think about that? Or should I wait till the end of it?
We don't love that model. And I'll show you why, right?
Okay.
So like Nevada, it's the only state in the country with legal regulated prostitution. It has the highest arrest rate per capita for prostitution related offenses.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because this kind of restrictive regulatory structure creates a two-tiered system, right? Where there are a few folks that are able and willing to work for other people, right, in one of these brothels, that are willing to register with the sheriff's department, which becomes like a subpoenable thing about you. People lose their kids, like, because they did legal sex work in Nevada. That's a real thing that happens. So there's a lot of good reasons why reasonable people would not want to work within that structure.
Yes.
So the overwhelming majority of people who are selling sexual services in Nevada are doing so outside of the brothels, and they have no legal protections. Okay. In fact, there's extra incentives to extra police those folks, because the brothels want to crack down on the criminalized competition, right? So it creates a lot of dynamics that do not lead to like better working conditions or like more negotiating power for workers. So that's not what sex workers want, right? So there's full criminalization, full criminalization, legalization or regulation, and then there's this thing called the end demand model. Okay. That is a policy that goes by many names. Some people call it the Swedish or the Nordic or the feminist or the equality or the entrapment or partial decriminalization or the Bad John's client. Like the foundational like belief of this policy is that nobody chooses to go into sex work voluntarily, that everyone doing this is a victim, and that it is our moral responsibility to eradicate this industry. But instead of criminalizing the professional providers, right, sex workers, instead we're going to criminalize the Johns, right, the pimps, their clients, their landlords, their facilitators, their managers, all of the people around sex work. And the story behind this is that purchasing sexual services is paid rape, and that the people who are doing that should be punished as violent criminals. But where this policy, everywhere that this policy has been implemented, violence against sex workers goes up. Sweden was the first country to adopt this policy in 1999. Norway and Iceland followed suit in 2009. Canada just became a country that recently adopted this policy. Israel, there are several other examples around the world. What it does is it undermines all of the safety strategies that sex workers use to keep ourselves safe. It makes screening clients impossible. It becomes harder for sex workers to tell the difference between a client who is nervous, right, and a predator who is dangerous, right? Because now both people don't want to give you any identifying information about themselves.
Good grief.
Yeah, so like when I was working as an hourly escort, it was standard operating procedure that before booking an appointment with me, somebody had to provide their real name and industry references, meaning other sex workers that they've seen and like not had a problem with. And before I crossed the threshold, right, either allowing somebody into my space or crossing over into theirs, I checked their ID.
Wow. Under
the Nordic end demand, like whatever this like end demand policy is, nobody is willing to show you their ID. Nobody is willing to tell you about another experience that they had with a sex worker. That's evidence of a crime. And so it shifts the burden on to sex workers who are now asked to do more for less money to appease nervous clients who are now holding all of the weight, risk, and responsibility of being the criminalized person in that transaction. So it doesn't improve conditions for sex workers. It just pushes the whole thing further underground.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there's a policy that sex workers want and have been asking for since the mid-1970s, which is the decriminalization of adult consensual sex work, right? Which means that you can wake up on a Tuesday, right, with a wild idea and go and try to negotiate, right, like sex for money. And if something bad happens, you can call the police because you aren't committing a crime, right? But if somebody rapes you or robs you or you like witness a violent act, you can report that without fear because you aren't committing a crime, nor is anyone involved committing a crime.
Yeah.
This model was first conceived of and implemented in New South Wales and Australia in 1995 as a anti-HIV/AIDS, like it was a public health initiative. Well, the research suggested that police officers confiscating condoms that a different government agency had given out was actually like not leading to good results. So because everywhere that sex work is criminalized, like condoms are evidence of a crime. So then sex workers, in an effort to not get caught by the police, you see how this like could lead to right. So New South Wales decriminalized sex work as a public health initiative. New Zealand became the first country to decriminalize sex work in 2003. And Belgium just became the first country in Europe to decriminalize sex work 2 years ago.
How's it going?
It's going great. Everywhere that sex work has been decriminalized, violence against women plummets, STIs drop, and sex workers self-report being more comfortable reporting crimes committed against them or that they witnessed to the police. There's a lot more collaboration between sex workers and law enforcement to go after like people that actually prey on vulnerable folks.
What if there's a world where young women, realize the power of their sexuality and want money.
Sure.
And maybe instead of working at the mall or whatever else, or, taking a course, whatever the fuck, they decide to reach out to their neighbors and just be like, yo, what's up? Kind of thing. And it's kind of like,
sure,
what does that world look like? And I guess I do feel like that's a sadder world. I don't know why I feel that way. I think it's because sexuality is one of our powers and one of our skills to make money, but it's certainly not the only one.
Sure.
And it's such an easy one. We learn really early that like our sexuality can kind of do whatever we want it to do.
Being sexy is a key that opens many doors.
Exactly.
For sure.
So I wonder, do you think about that, or is that not really how it works? Because like you said, it's the oldest profession, so some people opt in and out and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to understand like we already live in that world.
Yeah,
like
fair
we
enough.
already exist in a world where people, including young people, are having sex for money under a variety of different like circumstances. And people have a lot of different feelings about that. People come to this work, from a lot of different angles and for a lot of different reasons. And the work itself involves a lot of different things, right? There's full service sex work, there's stripping, there's doming, there's phone sex, there's foot fetish, there's like there's a really wide variety of different things that are all under the umbrella of sex work. And the real problem is the way that we treat sex workers. The future that we want, the future that I'm advocating for, is where sex work is a lot more like being a waitress than it is like being a Marine. It's like one of many like often temporary survival strategies that you have to like between gigs or to pay for education or like to do whatever. But there is no like once a waitress, always a waitress.
Yeah.
Once you've waited tables, you can never be an engineer. What does that even mean? Like, it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Right. All right. So my brain, this is already happening, Cara and world. So like this. Yeah.
People are so afraid of like brothels existing in their neighborhood. And it's like you already live in a place where people are having sex. Like that's what we are in. We are already in these communities.
Absolutely. OnlyFans. Like people are monetizing their shit. Absolutely.
And on the spectrum of horrific, degrading things that you can do that hurt your like body, mind, spirit. masturbating alone in your house on camera is just like not in the top 10.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
And like, I would love to have a conversation about what it would look like to create a less extractive economy, a less exploitative world. But we can't do that if we pretend that eradicating prostitution gets us any closer to that goal. And we will not create a future with more gender equality by trying to police people's sex lives harder. That's
I don't think
not,
so either. Yeah. But I think I'm trying to breach the conversation of exploitation.
For sure.
But I don't even know where to begin.
I think it's important to understand. I think the history is a really good place to start, right? So, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing that we do at Old Pros, is we try to use history and humor to change the conversation that we're having about the oldest profession. But so many of our ideas, beliefs, paradigms around this work come not from people's lived experience in the sex industry, but from the white slave panic that has shapeshifted many times over many generations, but has always been more of an excuse to police Black and brown people than it ever was about preventing any kind of sexual exploitation.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is not to say, like, absolutely violence and exploitation exists within the sex industry, but it is not overrepresented in the sex industry. There is more trafficking per capita happening in farm labor, domestic work, textiles, and the fishing industry than there is in sex work. Most people exchanging sexual services for money are adults that are coming to that work by choice or circumstance, not because they are being violently coerced by a predator, which is a real thing that happens across labor sectors.
Yeah.
Can
Can we talk about, or just however you want to reveal, how your choice to opt in to sex work and then your choice to leave? And like,
Sure.
Did you find any shifting in your identity, even for yourself, how you thought about it, or how other people, like, what's that like?
When I first chose to do sex work, I believed at the time that it was something that I would have to keep a secret for the rest of my life. That if anyone ever found out, it would close off all of my other options. That I could not be a person that did sex work and got a college degree, or did sex work or ran for office, or did sex work and got some other kind of job. Of course, I live now as somebody who is very out and public about my experiences. But I don't know like what options have been closed off to me as someone who's like decided to be out about that. And it is not something that you can easily unsay. So I understand why people choose to hold that secret. But I came to sex work initially from a place of curiosity and like deep longing. I was obsessed with sex workers from history. I was obsessed with like all things sex and sex power and wanting a place to like play with that wasn't gonna like ruin me or anyone else's life. And then I came back to it almost a decade later when I was trying to be a comic in New York, and I was getting paid in like alcohol and exposure and like other things that people die from. So it was, that became a way to solve problems. Sex work was a more attractive gig than waiting tables, babysitting, bartending, tutoring, or any of the other options that I had.
Did you have fun both times?
Yeah. I had fun and I had like hard moments both times. Yeah, I definitely like, it's not easy money. That's not
fair enough.
Like
fair enough.
Ever.
Yeah.
But I felt like I learned a lot and I developed a lot of transferable skills.
Yeah.
I would not be able to do the work that I do today had I not had the experiences that I had as a sex worker.
Okay. So it's kind of like, I like how you're talking about it as a practical way to do the thing.
Flexible schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Absolutely. Cash money. There's no like waiting 2 weeks for a paycheck, for sure. Right? And that like being able to say no to things. Like I can't tell you how many restaurant managers I had to like gently explain that I didn't move here to like be a waitress. So if I had an audition at 4:30 and my shift ended at 4, it did not matter to me how busy the restaurant was.
Yeah.
I was leaving at 4 to get to my audition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I came in here just wanting to learn and wanting to know. And what does it mean to advocate, and who are you advocating for? And now I feel like I understand that it's the sex worker, if they are choosing this profession,
Which is most.
which if I'm honest, I
Sure.
didn't even know that necessarily.
Yeah.
So there's a choice, there's a power, and there's not a regret. I think I heard you say that sometimes. And like, does not have to be your identity forever. Of course, in the society that we live in, maybe there's stamps or whatever the hell, but usually it can be a job that you do.
It can absolutely be a job.
And you are advocating for this woman most of the time. Do you advocate? Is it a woman?
People of all genders do sex work,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, like, and that's been true of all of
Yes.
human history. Now, most clients are mostly male, regardless of the gender of the person that is selling sexual services.
Yeah.
But I believe that is more about men having like most of the resources for
Yeah, that
most
makes
of
sense.
the time. Yeah. I've had a couple of experiences as a client of sex
Women?
workers. Men, both
Yeah.
times. Yeah. So, but like when I was 22 years old, I went to a strip club in Montreal for ladies, which I recommend.
Fun.
I don't know if you've ever had
No,
that.
I've never, but I've been very curious.
It's, like 10 recommend.
Really? Wait, are they men?
Yeah, they're men. Yeah, they're men that are stripping for women.
And they're sexy and it's erotic and
Sexy.
fabulous.
And they speak French. It's like wild.
yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so this like very attractive man dressed up as like a lumberjack or something,
Yes.
like blew on my inner thigh. And I, at 22 years old, gave him all of my money. Just all of it. I gave all of it, which because I was 22, bought me like 4 more minutes of his attention, like not whatever. And then he like wandered off into the night. And then my friends who I like went to this club with, I had to mooch off them for like the rest of the weekend because they'd watched me give this
you
man
gave this dude all your money.
all of my money.
Oh, I
I've
love
never.
that.
Yes.
Wait, you're making me think of, there was a show where a woman was paying for sex. Mm-hmm. And I don't think about that many women paying for sex, but I feel like I know women who would absolutely pay for sex.
There are more and more like services and agencies that like specialize
Oh, cool.
in female clients.
Okay.
There is a subculture of like, we talk about like sex tourism with men. There's absolutely sex tourism with women.
What does that mean?
Like people traveling to go places.
Oh, like I want this
Jamaica
erotic,
or like
yeah.
island culture.
Okay.
Like there's absolutely a subculture. Women clients exist in large enough numbers to make it an important part of the conversation.
This is so fascinating.
Yeah. But the conversation around the policing of prostitution is and has always been gendered.
Yeah.
And there's one, I think, really important point. The way that we have historically policed prostitution is we police where women go, what we wear, who we associate with, and how we keep or access our own money. And it is inevitable, right? When you criminalize prostitution, you inevitably police women's freedom of movement.
Yeah.
And so like here in New York, in the immediate aftermath of like this terrible federal law, and there's a resurgence and like sort of like the trafficking panic and like conversations around how important it is to police this. There was a restaurant on the Upper East Side of Manhattan that stopped serving single women at their bar because they didn't want sex workers in their restaurant.
Yikes.
Right. Like I think it's
Thanks
so
for saying
important
that.
for listeners. Like it does not matter if you could ever imagine yourself doing this work or if you've ever engaged directly with this work. Imagine moving through the world needing to at various checkpoints or at hotels or when you want to rent an apartment, first step, proving that you're not a whore.
Ooh.
That's what
Okay.
criminalizing prostitution is.
Okay, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Wow. One thing I do know for sure, sex needs to come out of the hidden chambers of shame and sadness. And whether it's in your partnership or in your own bedroom by yourself or on the fucking webcam or paying for it, I do believe the repression of our very natural urges is not it and causing a lot of problems.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we just keep doubling down on trying to police sex harder rather than address any of like the very real issues.
Sweet. You know, like, again, I want to like talk to you more and more and more just because I'm like, you have so much knowledge.
Thank you.
It's really cool. And my mind is blown. And I don't know, I think I already said this, but in case I didn't, the out in the open sex talk is certainly
so important.
going to be my 40s. And I hope that it's for more people. I just think we're sadder without understanding how powerful sex is for all of us. So thanks for doing what you do. Where else do you talk about this stuff? And
Yeah, for sure. This is all I talk about, much to my husband and family's chagrin, actually. But I cannot help myself. But so I host the Oldest Profession podcast, where every episode we do a deep dive into a different old pro or sex worker from history, or event significant to sex worker rights history.
Okay.
And so we remind listeners that sex workers have always been and will always be valuable, contributing, important members of our communities.
Amazing.
I tour with a live show, also called The Oldest Profession, where I cover 10,000 years of history from a sex worker's perspective.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I run Old Pros. So we're a nonprofit media organization that uses storytelling to advocate for sex worker rights.
Beautiful.
We send out a newsletter every week. It's a roundup of sex worker rights related news from all over the world, studies, talks, events, and of course, upcoming shows, opportunities to see me live.
Hell yeah.
New episodes.
Oh my gosh.
Fun media
Comedian
appearances like this. Yes.
Hell yeah. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So who needs to hear this the most? You know what I mean? Like, oof. Yeah, is it people like when we're voting in the booths? Is this when or just like how we talk about it to our family or like?
I believe that narrative change will come before policy change.
Yeah.
That the way that we talk about this amongst our friends and family at dinner tables, in community is going to matter, is going to lead to better policy.
Okay.
And so I think it's really important for folks to really examine like their own beliefs around this issue.
Okay.
And
Fair
I
enough.
cannot stress this enough. You don't have to be somebody that would ever imagine yourself doing sex work. You don't have to be someone that would like encourage your daughter to do this work, to stand behind policies that reduce STIs and reduce violence and make it easier for the people who are doing this work to do it safely and with dignity. I think it's really, really important for folks that self-identify as feminists to understand how foundational this issue is for women's rights. And it really is a lot like the abortion conversation, that if you do not live in a world where you can engage in consensual adult sex work, you do not live in a world that respects your autonomy. And there are people with a really wide variety of experiences with their own abortion. There are people who regret their abortion. There are people who are coerced into abortions they don't want to have. And then there are a huge number of people for whom abortion saved their life. And we know that we cannot eradicate abortion or contraception, but we can make it a lot less safe by pushing it underground. Sex work is no different.
I love it. Thank you for being here. It's amazing
so
what
much
you're
for having
doing.
me.
Yeah, cool.
I really appreciate it.
See you next time.
Thanks.
Ciao.